Okay, today's daf is Shabbat Samach Vav. Today's daf is dedicated to L'Refuah Shlema L'Netanel Ilan Ben Shena Tzipora, who's undergoing surgery this morning. So good luck. And his mother's with us, so we're praying for him. Okay, starting from the Mishnah at the bottom of Samach Amud Bet. Hakitea Yotze Bakav Shalom. Okay, so now we're going to have, part of today is going to be a bit of an issue because we're going to have a lot of things that it's unclear exactly. We know sort of what they're referring to, but not exactly. Okay, the concept here is that someone is missing a leg and he goes out, he needs his kav. Okay, so what is it? It's some sort of fake leg, okay, a prosthetic leg. And the issue is that he's going out, and can he walk with this on Shabbat in public? Now, it's generally, the assumption is it's made of a piece of wood. Now, if you remember, what did we talk about? When it comes to a vessel, is something considered a kli, a utensil? Is it makabel tumah? We're going to get into the whole issue of is it susceptible to impurities. It has to have what we call a beit kibul. It has to accept something, right? It can't just be that it's flat. Flat wood doesn't work, right? Flat metal will be, but not flat wood. So this doesn't have that receptacle in it. So anyway, he can go out with this on Shabbat. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, according to Rashi, this is his min'al didehu. Okay, this is his shoe. So because it's his shoe, he can go out just like I can walk out with shoes, so he can walk out with shoes. Why is it a shoe? Well, again, it's decorative. He wants to cover up the fact that he's missing a leg. And it's, right, and he uses it to, again, is he walking or not? It's unclear, but maybe also to walk on. But Rabbi Yossi Oser, Rabbi Yossi says, what are you talking about? This isn't a tachshit for him, he says. This isn't like an ornament. He wears it because he's missing something there, and it's not really like an ornamental type thing, and therefore you can't use it on Shabbat. Okay, that's what Rabbi Yossi holds. Now comes the part about the tumah, the impurity. Im yesh lo beit kibul kititin. Okay, it's unclear again. It's even the Mefarshim didn't exactly understand what exactly they were referring to. Rashi explains that what it means is that in the leg, okay, when you attach it to the body, to the stump of his leg, there's a little receptacle there, and Rashi explains that they would put soft cloth there to basically make it more comfortable. So there was some sort of receptacle. Once there's a receptacle, then it's tameh. Okay, then it can be susceptible to impurity. Whereas if it doesn't have that, then it's not susceptible to impurity. Some people say that it's actually something else, but we'll leave it with Rashi right now. Smuchot shelo tme'in midras v'yotzim bahem b'Shabbat v'nichnesim bahem ba'azara. Okay, smuchot. So again, every time we have a term, it's not exactly clear what it means. Rashi says this is something smuchot shel kitea. Yesh kitea b'shtei raglav. Okay, so there's some people who have, right, if you're kitea on one regel, then you're really walking on one leg and you're using the other one just for support. But, just, you're kind of not really walking on it. But if you have on two reglaim, mahalech al shokav va'al arkuvotav va'oses muchot shel or l'shokav. He basically makes these, right, like puts something on the stumps and then he walks on them, right? If you have one leg missing, so then your other leg, you have to kind of make the same length as that leg, and that's what we're talking about, this prosthetic leg. But if you have neither leg, right, both are stumps, then you're going to put a shoe-like type thing at the bottom of each one, and you're going to walk on those. So those are the smuchot. So now those are much more something that they're going to be basically walking on. Do you hear? Okay, so that's something that he's going to be walking on at that point because they're on both legs. So at that point, they're tameh midras. Okay, we're going to say that they're tameh also. If you remember what's midras, midras is when you have a zav or a yoledet or one of those people who have a specific tumah, a yoledet, right? A yoledet, a nida. They're all tameh midras. If you use these legs, these shoe type things for walking on both feet, then you're really leaning on them. Now, tumat midras is something, we've talked about it, where your bench is tameh, where you sit, where you lie down. It's also something that you would lean on. Now, since these shoes were used for leaning on, basically he puts all his weight on them, so therefore they're going to be tameh tumat midras. Okay? So that's what the smuchot. So these have an additional tumah that the other ones, well, we don't know actually. When it talked about beit kibul tameh, we're going to see some people think it's tameh midras, some people think it's regular tumah, okay? But we explained it right now as regular tumah because it has a receptacle and that's why it's tameh. But we'll see later that some people think it actually means midras there also. Okay, so once you lean on something and you put your weight on it, that's already tameh tumah midras. Now we get to an interesting point. Nichnesim behem ba'azara. What does this mean? Well, you're not allowed to go into the azara and the Beit HaMikdash if you're wearing shoes. If you remember that halacha, but you're not allowed to go into the azara with shoes. That was the inner area of the mikdash, right? That leads to the heichal, which leads to the kodesh, which leads to the kodesh, right? Leads to the kodesh kodeshim. Anyway, that whole area before you even get to the heichal, you're not allowed to go in with shoes. So now they say, interestingly, but these aren't considered shoes. These are basically considered something for him to walk on, but they're not actually considered shoes because they're not really decorative. They're not, right? They're kind of in a different category, and therefore you could go into the azara with these. Okay, so Rashi says, even though it says in the Mishnah, Lo yikanes adam l'harabayit b'minalo, hai lav min al ninu. Now, why does he say they're not a minal? It's a little bit strange because it really is a shoe, right? So why is it not a shoe? So Rashi comes up with this explanation, which is hard to understand exactly where he gets this, but again, Rashi is trying often, and we'll see this a bunch of times today, that it would, again, assuming the Rishonim didn't really understand the reality that was going on in their time, just like we don't understand. We don't know exactly what all these things are. So someone wrote, what are the smuchot? Not exactly clear what the smuchot are. There's, as I said, they're these, something they put on the stumps of the legs if you're missing both legs, and then you're kind of using them for walking on, for leaning on. So Rashi says they're not put on the head of his foot. Okay, if you put them at the head of your foot, then they're shoes. I don't know exactly what Rashi means by this. Lo birosh lav birosh raglohen. Okay, they're not. I guess because he doesn't have the end of his foot, and that's why it's unclear exactly. But he tries to come up with some reason as to why they're not considered shoes, but they are considered something he leans on, and they're tamei midras. Kisei usmuchot shelo. Okay, now we're going to talk about something else that you really wish that in those days they had video cameras and they could just video this, because the way Rashi tries to describe this is very confusing in my mind. Right? Rashi's trying to describe something in words that nowadays, if we wanted to describe that, we would make a little movie, right? A little video, put it up on YouTube and say, oh, you want to know what a kisei and the smuchot are? Go look there. So Rashi explains, okay, we'll try to read it and understand. Again, I struggled a lot with this stuff because it's very hard to understand the reality of all these cases. And remember, keep in mind, the Rishonim also they're trying to come up with what they think they were talking about. Yesh kitea, so in Rashi Dibor Matchel Kisei. Yesh kitea sheyavshu v'kavtzu gidei shokav. Okay, his joints kind of dried up and shrunk. Va'afilu al arkuvotav eino yachol lelech. He can't even walk on his stumps, right? The previous case was where he's walking on the stumps. V'osin kimin kisei namuch, almost like a wheelchair, right? But it's not exactly a wheelchair. They make a low chair, v'yoshev alav. Ukeshehu mahalech nismach al yadav b'safsalim. He leans, when he wants to move, he leans on the chair. B'safsalim ktanim v'oker gufo min haaretz, and he kind of lifts his body off the ground. V'nidchaf lepanav, and he kind of propels himself forward using this chair. V'chozer v'nachal achorav, and then he sits back down on it. V'kisei kashur lo me'acharav, and the kisei is somehow attached to him. And then this chair has smuchot. Okay, shaloto kitea selo smuchot shel or. He has these leather things he would lean on, o shel eitz, or they were made of wood. L'rashe shokav raglav hatzluyim. Okay, so now he's sitting on a chair. Now at this point, the smuchot are different because they're not on the ground most of the time. They're mainly on the chair. So they're the smuchot, right? In the previous case, they were used for walking on. This time, he's really just propelling himself forward. And he uses them a little bit on the ground, but mostly they're suspended in the air. So they're like an in-between. They're used for leaning on, but not so much used for leaning on. So at this point, we're going to say the smuchot shelo are tmei midras, ve'ein yotzim b'hem Shabbat. They still are tamei midras, but you can't go out with them on Shabbat. And ve'ein nechnasim b'hem ba'azara. And you can't go in with these to the azara because these are more functioning as shoes that are decorative rather than shoes that are right. So they're more shoes, and therefore you can't go into the azara with them. However, you can't go out with them on Shabbat either. So they're this in between. Okay, and they basically, and I think it's because you don't really need them, so therefore you can't go out with them on Shabbat. Lukmitin. Okay, what are lukmitin? We don't really know. We're going to see 3 explanations in the Gemara. Most of them think that these lukmitin have something to do with a child's toy. Okay, we'll get back to it. Teholin, they're not considered a kli, so they're not susceptible to impurity. Ve'ein yotzim b'hem, you can't go out with them on Shabbat. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have anything to do with this Mishnah? It doesn't really, and in fact, I think it really connects more with the next Mishnah, which starts off about something with children. But anyway, it got placed here, right? Remember, it's just a matter of where you divide up the Mishnayot, but really this came right before the upcoming Mishnah, so we'll get to that soon. Okay, now we're going to get into the Gemara about all this. Amar le Rava le Rav Nachman. Hey chitnan. This is a strange question. If you don't know the end, it's kind of like watching the beginning of the movie. You have no idea what's flying. So here also they say, well, what version of the Mishnah do you have? Now, whoever said there were versions, okay, like how do you learn this Mishnah? What do you mean? We just learned this Mishnah like this, but we're going to see that the Mishnah, going back to the first case, Hakitei yotzei bakav shelo divrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi Oser. The first case, there was a machloket, whether you can go out or you can't go out. So now, Rabbi says from Nachman, what version do you have? That Rabbi Meir allows it, and Rabbi Yossi forbids it, or the reverse. So Amarle lo yadana. Rabbi Nachman says, I don't know. So now he says, Hilchatamai, so at least tell me what the halacha is. Fine, you don't know who said what, but what do we paskin like? Amarle lo yadana. He says, I don't know. Itmar, it was said, Amar Shmuel, ein hakitea. Okay, look at our Mishnah. Our Mishnah starts off, hakitea yotzei bakav shelo. He can go out with this kav. But Shmuel had the version of ein hakitea, which means that Rabbi Meir was the one who said, you can't go out. Ein hakitea yotzei bakav shelo. And then Rabbi Yossi matir. That was the other version. So Shmuel had the other version. V'chein amar Rav Huna ein hakitea. And Rav Huna also had the other version, although hold off, because we're going to see that they all changed their mind about this. Right now, we're going to see that a whole bunch of people thought it was the reverse version that we have in front of us. Amar Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef says, wow, ho'il v'amar Shmuel ein hakitea, v'amar Rav Huna ein hakitea, ananami nitnei ein hakitea. He said very obviously, well, Shmuel says this and Rav Huna says this. Well, peer pressure, we may as well change the version of our Mishnah, and it must be the reverse. Mat kefla, Rava bar Shira. Rava bar Shira says, what are you talking about? Lo shmialu, did you not hear the following? That ha dematne le Rav Chanan bar Rav lechia bar Rav kamei de Rav bekituna de be Rav. Didn't you hear that Rav Chanan bar Rava taught Tachia bar Rav in front of Rav in the kituna de be Rav, which means in the small little room in the house of Rav. Notice there's a play on words here, kituna and kitea, right? It's a little bit referencing. There's a literary connection here. Didn't you hear that he brought the following version, ein hakitea yotzei bakav shelo divrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi matir, umechame le Rav ipuch. And Rav heard this and said, no, it's the reverse. And Rav corrected. Well, if Rav corrected to our version, it must be our version is right and not the version that everyone else keeps quoting. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak v'simanech samach samach. How do you remember what the right version is, right? They gave all these mnemonics. Samach samach, which is Rabbi Yossi with a samach, Oser with a samach. That's how you remember, he forbids. Okay? And that's how you remember the correct version. And now they're going to go back and redo everything we learned. Af Shmuel hadrabe. Shmuel, in fact, changed his mind. How do we know Shmuel changed his mind? Because we're going to show from the following source. Ditnan. Says in the Mishnah. Now we're going to move on to other things that relate to shoes. What our Mishnah did was it kind of took the issue of shoes as relates to can you go out with them on Shabbat, right? If they're considered a shoe, then you can. And then talked about, well, how much are they considered a shoe? Can you wear them in the Azara or not, right? Are these considered a shoe that you can't go into the Azara with them? We talked about them as relates to Chuma. Now we're going to add another element, which is if something's considered a shoe, then you can do the mitzvah of chalitza. Chalitza is when a woman is married to a man. He dies without children. She's supposed to marry the brother. If the brother doesn't want to marry her, they do the ceremony called chalitza, right? If they do the actual, he marries her, it's called yibum. If not, right, and he's supposed to be lahakim shem hamet, to basically continue the brothers, right? It has to do with inheritance also. We'll get into all this when we get to Yavama. We'll learn a lot about it. And she would take, if he doesn't want to do it, then she takes a shoe and she spits on it. So now you need an actual shoe. So again, here we're going to get to, is this called a shoe? So chatzab sandal she'eno shelo. Let's say she takes a shoe that's not his. Okay, is that okay? Or sandal shel et. That would be our case. Well, one of the reasons why this wouldn't be called a shoe, we're now going to learn, is not just because it was on someone who wasn't, doesn't have a leg, but it's also, and it wasn't exactly in the shape of a shoe, but also it's made of wood. Generally, shoes are not made of wood, right? They were made of leather. So if you took a sandal shel eitz, o shel smol biyamin, she's supposed to take his right shoe. What if he's wearing his left shoe on his right foot? So does that work? Chalitza kshera. So all these work. Okay, so first of all, that's a Mishnah. Now we still want to prove, how do we know that Shmuel changed his mind about Rabbi Meir? Well, Amrinan man Tana, who's the Tana of this Mishnah? Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Meir he. Ditnana kitei yotze bakav shelo divrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi oser. So what do you say? Shmuel says, that's Rabbi Meir. How do we know it's Rabbi Meir? Because Rabbi Meir in our case says that a wood shoe is considered a shoe. So there you have it. It's Rabbi Meir. And here you see Shmuel quotes our Mishnah according to the version that we have and not the version that he switched it. So he must have changed his mind. Ba'af Rav Huna Hadrabe, he also changed his mind about this. Titanya sandal shel sayadin tamei midras. Isha choletzet bo v'yotzim bo b'Shabbat. Okay, here you have all three things together. Is it tamei midras? Can you do chalitza? And can you go out with it on Shabbat? What are we talking about? So a plasterer, someone who's working with plaster, it makes a big mess, right? It's this white plaster they would use. It was very messy. So you wouldn't want to ruin your leather shoes. So what would you do? You'd wear a sandal of sayadin. It was known as the plasterer's shoe. And it was made of straw. And you would either, I saw a few different interpretations, either you would wear it over your shoe, you would cover your shoe with it, or some people say you would wear it instead of a shoe. Okay, it would be some sort of shoe you wear instead. It's tamei midras. It functions like a shoe. Isha choletzet bo. You can use it for chalitza, and yotzim bo b'Shabbat, and you can wear it on Shabbat. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. He viewed it like a shoe. It's used like a shoe. Viewed like a shoe. But Rabbi lo hodulo. But the rabbis didn't agree with him. The hatanya. So now, wait. There's a question. Okay, this is all to say Rav Huna changed his mind, but we don't yet know why. The hatanya, doesn't it say in a braita hodulo? They did agree with him. So there's a debate. Did the rabbis agree with him, or did they not agree with him? So how does Rav Huna resolve this contradiction? Amar Rav Huna, man hodulo, Rabbi Meir, uman lo hodulo, Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Meir agreed with him. Rabbi Yossi didn't agree with him. Now, why would Rabbi Meir agree with him? Because just like he thinks by us, eitz is okay. Also, he thinks here, even though it's made from straw, it's still considered a shoe. Okay? And Rabbi Yossi, who doesn't think so, disagreed with him. Okay? And didn't agree with him. And here you have it that Rav Huna also thought that in the end, he agreed with our version of the Mishnah, that Rabbi Meir is the one who says it's okay because it's a shoe, and Rabbi Yossi didn't view it as a shoe and said it wasn't okay. Rabbi Yosef had a different version of this Mishnah and understanding this Braita and understanding why Rabbi Akiva did it, but others didn't agree with him. Rabbi Yosef Amar man lo hodulo, and it doesn't have to do with our Mishnah, because our Mishnah is talking about eitz, and this is talking about straw, and those are two different things. It has to do with a different machloket. Man lo hodulo, who didn't agree with him? Rabbi Yochanan ben Yuri. Ditnan, as it says in the following Mishnah, kaveret shel kash, if you have a straw basket, ushvoferet shel kanim, or you have a tube made of reeds. Rabbi Akiva mitameh, he views this as a utensil. Rabbi Yochanan ben Yuri mitahel, he thinks that things made of straw are just not, they're very temporary. They're not meant for anything. And therefore, basically, they're not considered a kli. And that's why you would have this issue with the shoe of the Sayyadim, and not because of our Mishnah. That's a whole different version. But anyway, we already proved that Rav Huna changed his mind. So we now basically have established that the version in our Mishnah is the correct version. That Rabbi Meir allows it, Rabbi Yossi doesn't. Okay. Now we're going to go a little bit more in depth into the shoe of the Sayyadim. Amar Mar, sandal shel Sayyadim tamei midras, halav lehilucha avde. But why would it be tamei midras? If, right, again, tamei midras is something you lean on. Now, generally, right, you don't use these. They're not really meant for walking on. So why would you consider this tamei midras? So Amar Rav Acha bar Rav Ula, sheken hasayab mitayel bo ad shemigia lebeito. He would actually use these if you're a worker, you're working in those shoes. What do? Well, when you go home, you don't start changing your shoes. They walk home in them. Once they walk home in them, you do see that they are actually using them as shoes, and therefore it's going to be matame tumat midras. Okay, that was all so far on the first line of our Mishnah. Kitei yotzei bakav shelo, divrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi osel. Now we're going to get to that next line about it having a beit kibul. And if you remember, I told you that when we got to the Mishnah said, if it had this beit kibul ketitin, assuming what we're going to explain like Rashi, had this, it was concave, and inside there was place to put some cloth to make it softer for the person wearing it, then it would be tamei. Now, what kind of tamei are we talking about? So we're going to have a machloket. Amar Abai, tamei tumat mei. We're talking about regular tumah, tumah mei, tumah sheretz, because again, when you talk about regular tumah, the whole issue is, does it have a receptacle or not? Since this has a receptacle, then it's going to be tamei tumah mei. The ain tamei midras, but it's not going to be tamei midras. The fact that it has a receptacle, it still doesn't mean that he's leaning on it. Rav Amar af tamei midras. No, it is tamei midras because he leans on this. Again, it's all a matter of how you view this. Is the person leaning on it? Is it used for leaning, or is it used more for decorative purposes and for having it make it look like the person has a leg? So Amar Rava, Mina Aminala. Now Rav and Abai are each going to bring proofs for their opinions. Ditnan, as it says in the following Mishnah, Agalash shel katan tmei midras. Okay, again, every time we have some item of that they were using in those days, debate about what exactly it was. So number one, by the way, someone's pointing out, just so I'd be clear, it doesn't mean that whenever we say tamei, and this goes on all the time, and what we mean is it can be susceptible to impurity. It doesn't mean it's actually impure. It's only if it becomes, in contact with something that could make it tamei. Okay, agala shel katan tmei midras. So now you have this agala v'katan. What's an agala v'katan? A wagon, a stroller. So Rashi says it's a toy stroller. Okay, in those days, what do you see? They had toy strollers. And what's the issue? Why would it be tamei midras? Because sometimes if you have this at home, a toy stroller, it's one of my kids' favorite toys when they were little. The kids like to sit in it also. So it's sometimes used for sitting, so it would have tumah midras. Okay, Tosfot says, what are you talking about? Obviously that's tumah midras. If it's talking about a stroller type thing, there wouldn't even be a question. That can't be what they're talking about here in the Mishnah. The Mishnah must be referring to agalash osim lekatan lihitlamed lahalech. It's something like a walker for a child. They used to use these walkers to help the kids to walk. And that, the child leans on it. It's not the child sits on it, it's that he leans on it. And that's why the Mishnah is telling you might not have thought, but since he leans on it, it is tamei tumah midras. So comes Rav and he says, look, since this agalav katan is tamei midras, when you're leaning on it, therefore also here, you would say it's tamei tumah midras, the leg. The fake leg. Abai Amar, hatam samachi lavei, hacha lo samachi lavei. No, Abai says there the child leans on the agala, but here it's not really. The person doesn't really use it for leaning on, and therefore, right. And here it becomes a matter, I think, of somewhat of percentages. How much is it used for leaning? How much is it not used for leaning? And it's a matter of how much we lean on it, and how much we use it for other things. So that's a bit of the debate. Amar Abai, Mina Minala. So Abai says, what's my proof that it's not tamei midras? Titania, makel shel zkenim tahor miklum. Here you have it, a walking stick, okay, that an elderly person uses, is not tamei at all. Why is it not tamei? Because it has no receptacle, right? And it's used. Now, issue is, it's also used for leaning, but it's not exactly used for leaning on, okay, although you would think it is, but we're going to see, again, it's a matter of percentages. So Rava, what's Rava going to explain there? Why is it tahor miklum according to Rava when he says as long as you lean on it, it's tamei? So what does he say? Hatam l'teirutza sugya avida. Okay, this doesn't mean l'teretz sugya, like if you have a problem with the sugya and you explain it. What it means is, Rashi says, it's just to help him walk straighter, to fix his strides so that his strides are more solid and more and to kind of straighten him up. But he doesn't actually use it for leaning on, he uses it more for straightening up. And therefore, but when it comes to the leg, he does use it for leaning on. So again, maybe it's a debate between Rav and Abai about how exactly this prosthetic leg was used. Okay, so it's a bit of a debate how we view it, and is it tamei midras or is it tamei mei? And that's a machlok Rav and Abai. Okay, next, and even Rava would agree that it's tamei tumah mei. The question is it also midras? Is it also something used for leaning or not? Tmeim midras ve'ein yotzim behem b'Shabbat ve'ein nechnesim behem la'azara. Okay, now we're going back to the case about the kisei and the smuchot shelo. Okay, so this chair, and really it's not the chair that we're talking about, it's the parts these leather pieces that would go with the chair that he would put his weight on. So the Mishnah says, Tane kamei de Rabbi Yochanan, nichnesim behem la'azara. He brought a bright in front of Rabbi Yochanan that says you can go with these into the azara. They're not considered shoes, even though we said before they were. Amar le, just one second. Yeah. Amar le, ani shonei isha choletzet bo va'at amart nichnesim. Rabbi Yochanan says to him, how could you possibly say that? If I say it can be used for chalitza, then of course you can't go into the Azara with them. If they're a shoe for chalitza, then they're going to be a shoe for the Beit HaMikdash, and then you can't go in with them. So the Tana changed it. Tane ein nichnesim ben l'Azara. Just like we had a problem with the Girsa before. Is it hakitea yotzei or ein hakitea yotzei? Often people switch things in their opposites. He says, oh, you must have gotten the Breita wrong. It's really ein nichnesim ben l'Azara, which is problematic when you confuse these things because you come up with the exact opposite conclusion. Luktamin tahora, my luktamin. So what are these luktamin that we said? They're pure, right? They're not susceptible to impurity, and ein yotzim behem, and you can't go out with them on Shabbat. So what are these? Amar Rabbi Abahu chamra da'achva. This is a toy donkey they would carry on their shoulders. It sounds like a little like a ventriloquist or something, right? When he walks around with the thing on the shoulders. So that's what it is. Again, what does this connect to our mission? It doesn't really, but it's just another item that you can't go out with it on Shabbat because it's not really viewed as a tachshit, an ornament, and it's not a utensil that it would be susceptible to impurities. Rabba bar Papa Amar kishire. It's actually stilts, which actually makes a little more sense in the context of our Mishnah. It was stilts that people would use. Now Rashi doesn't connect. It's interesting. All the other two of the three here have to do with a child's toy. Stilts, theoretically, you could say is a child's toy, but Rashi says it's actually to prevent you if you're walking in a muddy area and you don't want to get your shoes all muddy, so you walk on these stilts. Rabba bar Rav Huna Amar parame, which are masks, okay? These kids' masks that they would use, so also you can't go out with that on Shabbat. You might think, oh, it's decorative, but it's actually something you're carrying, right? We're talking about those masks, like if you go to, I think it's in Venice, where they have all those masks that people use on their faces, right? Things like that. That kind of a mask that you would hold over your face, that you wouldn't be able to go out with. And it's not considered a utensil for susceptibility to impurity. Okay, now we're going to start a new Mishnah, and from here we're going to get into a whole bunch of very strange skulot that people would use to heal them, for healing purposes and things that they believed in those days. Okay, so take a deep breath because some of these things are going to sound a little bit odd. Okay, habanim yotzim b'ksharim. The children, male children, it seems, can go out with ksharim, with these ties. With knots. We'll see what these knots are. U'bnei melachim bezugin. The sons of kings can go out with bells around their necks. V'chol adam, really everybody can. Ela shedibru chachamim b'hoveh. Remember, the bell, we were worried we thought people were selling, right, like the animals, but you're not worried about that with the children. So what about the noise issue? Okay, so actually I didn't look ahead, but maybe they'll get to that in the Gemara. We're not going to deal with this case today. We're going to deal only with the ksharim, and from here we're going to get off on a long tangent. My ksharim, what are these knots? Amar Adamari, Amar Rav Nachman bar Baruch, Amar Rav Ashi bar Avin, Amar Rav Yehuda. Okay, it was passed down in the name of a lot of people. Kishure pu'ah. They're garlands of the madder plant. Okay, they would take the stems and they would tie them together and they would wear them. Amar Abai, Amar Li'em, my mother told me. Now it's not his mother. Abai's mother died in childbirth. But what we're talking about is his omenet, the woman who took care of him. Okay, he had a woman who took care of him, and he always calls her his aim, and he constantly tells us wise things that she told him. Okay, she was a knowledgeable woman about all sorts of things. So she explained to him, Tlata mukme, chamisha masu, shiva afilu l'kshafim male. Okay, 3 help kind of, they're like, they help you, I'm trying to think of the word, right? Mamidim, right, they prevent you from the sickness getting worse. Chamisha actually heal you if you take 5 of these knots. And 7 even work to get rid of a spell. Okay, you see they believed in spells and magic. Okay, if somebody puts a spell on you, a magic something on you, 7 of these knots will work to take it away. Amar Abacha bar Yaakov, v'hu, and here comes the very weird part. This is only if the moon or the sun didn't see the knots, not rain, it didn't hear any sounds of iron clinking, the kal tarnagola, or the sound of a rooster, the kal nigre, or the sound of footsteps. Okay, so now basically it can't be exposed to any of these things. Okay, if it is, it's not going to work. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, nafaputa bebira. You're basically throwing this to the pit. In other words, if you say that, how could it possibly not be exposed to any of those things? There's no way. Okay, that's first question about this. So it doesn't make any sense. V'mai iria banim afilu banot, and it doesn't make sense if this is what you're talking about. This sounds like it would be relevant for everybody, not just boys, also girls. And my iria ktanim afilu gdolim nami. And what about, you said banim, which sounds like young children and not older children. Therefore, he throws this out the window. He says, this can't possibly be the interpretation. Ela Mike Shalim, Ki Hadam Rabbi Avin, Rahuna Amar Chama Berguria. Here comes a very strange one also. Ben Sheyesh Lo Gaguin Alaviv. Notel Ritzuam Minal Shel Yamin V'Kosher Lo B'Smolo. If you're having separation anxiety from your father, a child is having separation anxiety, what do? You take, okay, so now I'm going to read it with this interpretation. I'll read you another one in a minute. But assuming we're talking about separation anxiety, so the father takes the ritzuah from his right shoe, the strap from his right shoe, and he puts it on the left arm of the child. This is like a good way, right? You're going to Gan, the kid's scared. You give the kid something from the father or the mother to remember them during the day, right? It helps them feel better. That's the best way I can understand this. And then Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak v'simaneh. How do you remember this? Tefillin. It's like tefillin. You take it with your right hand and you put it on your left hand. So it's a way of remembering how you do this. The chilufa. And why was it so important to remember how to do this? Because chilufa sakanta. If you do the reverse, it's dangerous. Okay, this is a little bit strange, but that's what they say. Some people explain that we're not talking about a child whose father's alive and he's having separation anxiety. We're actually talking about a child whose father died and he's having a lot of issues getting over his father. And then you do this also as a way to help him heal from the difficulty of the loss of his father. Okay, the problem with this, and here's an interesting Rashi, again, if we go back to Rashi, we saw Rashi the other day was talking about something about the geography, which wasn't exactly accurate. You know, Rashi often tries to deal with problems in the text, come up with answers, even if they're not 100% matching the reality. So here Rashi says something also I'm not so sure matches reality, but interesting that Rashi suggests this. It doesn't explain why banim and not banot. What, banot wouldn't have gaguim for their father? So Rashi says, she'ein ha'av mechavevan kol kach mitchilatan shiyu mitgagin alav. The father doesn't have such a strong love for the daughter, and therefore the daughter won't miss the father as much. Okay, a very harsh line of Rashi to think that the fathers didn't love their daughters. I mean, we do see that they always wanted sons, but it's a little bit harsh to really believe. I hope that this wasn't really the reality. Anyway, Rashi often is trying to grapple with is a problem with the pshat. You see this in the Torah also. It's Rashi's always, right? He brings in a midrash that's struggling with a pshat in the text. Okay, moving on. We're now about 12 lines from where the lines get wide. Amar Avin Barhuna Amar of Chama Barguria Schufe Kasa Atibori B'Shabta Shapir Dami. Once we started talking about things that you can walk out with on Shabbat for healing purposes, like these ksharim, which now we learn they're healing the sons from the pain of missing their fathers. So what else can you do for? Generally, we talked about that refuah, you're not allowed to do a lot of things for medical reasons on Shabbat, although we did see you could walk out with these amulets, and we did see this. What else can you do? Well, you can turn over, sechufe kasa atibor, you can turn over a cup, take out a hot cup, something was heated up in it, empty, now you empty it out, you take it and you put it upside down on your navel, the shabta. If you're having stomach issues, it's like a heating pad. So you can do this. You can anoint yourself with oil and salt, which is something they did when they were drunk. We're going to see this right now to basically become more sober. All these, when they were drunk, they would take this oil and salt. They would put it on the insides of their hands. And on their feet. And they would say, okay, they would say this incantation. We're going to talk about incantations today. Just like this oil is clear. Likewise, the wine that I drank should become clear to Ploni bar Planita. Notice they say, son, I am X, the son of my mother, Planita, not Ploni. We're going to get back to that later. Just like we say a refuah shlema, like we said this morning, we always use the mother's name. Also, we're going to learn that in incantations, you always use the mother's name. So it should become clear and meaning it won't affect me. The elo, okay, now, elo could mean one of two things. If you don't have shemen and salt, or maybe it means if it doesn't work, then try plan B. Maite shia dedana, take the cover that they use things to cover to seal the barrels. V'shari levimaya, soak it in water. Ve'amar, and say the following: just like this is clear, leitzol chamri deplanya bar planita. Basically, the idea was to take something that was see-through, and then they would say, "Oh, just like this is clear, also this is, I should be clear." from the wine. The wine should, stop affecting me. V'amar Avin Barhuna, Amar Rav Chama Berguria, mutar lechanek b'Shabbat. You can choke. Now, this doesn't mean you can choke someone. What does this mean? There was some act that they would do in order to put the vertebrae back in place. They would kind of choke someone's neck to kind of, in the back, to kind of stick the vertebrae back into place. I checked with a friend of mine who's an orthopedist yesterday. He said he wouldn't recommend this. It could really mess you up more than good. But I imagine this was a method they used in those days. V'amar Avin Barhuna, Amar Rav Chama Berguria, lipufe yenuke b'Shabbat shapir dami. You can also do this on Shabbat. They would wrap the infants when they were born. They would wrap them with a strong band, like a soft band that was, but tightly, kind of the way we swaddle babies. But the idea being to put their limbs into the right place. That if they weren't necessarily in the right place, to get them into the right place. You can do that on Shabbat. Now we're going to say Rav Papa. Now this is an issue that deals with young children, and the earlier case also dealt with young children about the ksharim that they could walk out with on Shabbat. So Rav Papa matne banim, Rav Zvid matne ben. Okay, Rav Papa had two cases, both cases of the sons, and Rav Zvid only had one, but we're going to see he really had two. It's just a matter of who said. Rav Papa matne banim utravayu matne leba Avin Barhuna. He taught the case of both the cases, and he said both of them were said in the name of Avin Barhuna. Rav Zvid matne ben kamaita matne ba Avin Barhuna. The high matne leba Rabba Bar Bar Chana. The second one he said was in the name of Rabba Bar Bar Chana, not in the name of Avin Barhuna. How do we know this? To Amar Rabba Bar Chana, lipupe yenuke b'Shabbata shapir dame. And here he says it explicitly that it was said by somebody else. Amar Abai, Amar li Aim. We're now going to continue with things that Abai said he learned from his mother, or his woman who acted as his mother. Now we're going to get really into incantations and all sorts of very strange things. It was reminding me of the placenta of the black cat, if you remember back in Brachot, right? It's kind of like those. Kol minyane b'shma de ima v'kol katre b'smola. All the incantations you say in the name of the mother, again, you say Ploni, the son of Planita, right, of my mother, the woman's name, v'chol katre, and all the knots that you do, you put on the left side, the smola. V'amar Abai, Amar li Aim. Okay, again, another thing. If there's rules about the incantation, how many times you should say it, then you say it whatever many times it says, right? In the book of, right, you think about it, a book of spells, right? In the book of incantations, it says a certain amount, that's what you do. But if it didn't specify, then how many do you do? Arba'in v'chad zinde. Okay, you do 41 times. Strange number, I don't know why. Tanu Rabbanan, yotzim be'evan tkuma b'Shabbat. Okay, another bright about things, a school out. You can walk around with this Even Tkuma, and Even Tkuma was a rock that they believed would help women to prevent miscarriage. Mishum Rabbi Meir Amru, Af b'mishkal Even Tkuma. You can even take something that's weighed has the same weight as the Even Tkuma. So if something weighs exactly the same amount, people believe that would work like an Even Tkuma, unless you didn't have one. So you went to your friend who had one, you weighed something against it, and you say, I'm going to use this as my Even Tkuma. So now they say, the loshi pila, ela shema tapil, and not if she actually miscarried, but even, right, it's not just to heal a woman from miscarriage, but to prevent miscarriages. The loshi ibra, and maybe even if she's not pregnant, she can still use this on Shabbat. Ela shema titaber v'tapil, okay? So you can even walk out with this on Shabbat. If you're hoping to get pregnant and you want to make sure you have a healthy pregnancy, even if you're not even pregnant, you're still allowed to go out with this. This is how important they felt the whole right. Again, remember, people died in childbirth, had a lot of unhealthy pregnancies. You can see why this was important. Okay, again, now we get this sort of schooler that works, and now we're going to have details. Well, it only works if you're going to use something in place of the Even Tkuma. It can't be that you take something and you weigh it and it's not exactly right, so you add something to it to make the weight exactly the same. No. Has to be that when you put it on the scale from the start, it's exactly the same weight. Then it works. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, obviously, then you can't go out with this on Shabbat. It's like we talked about the amulet that wasn't a mumche, right? That wasn't proven to work. You can't go out with on Shabbat. So now we're going to have some more things about this. Bye, mishkal de mishkal mai. What if I, let's say my friend had something she weighed against an Even Tkuma, and I took my thing and weighed it against her item that weighed up against the Even Tkuma. Does that work? Transitive property? Teku. We don't know. Amar Abai, Amar li Aim, L'ishtabat Yom, if you have a fever of a day, or some people say if you have a daily fever, Lishkol Zuzah Chivara, you take a new coin, a newly minted coin, V'leza l'melchata, you go to a place where they collect salt, right, from the water, like the Dead Sea, V'litkol mitakle, you take the weight of the zuz in salt, milcha. Ulitzayre bechalala de beit savar, you put it by the hole in your neck. Benira barka, you tie it with a strand of hair. Okay, and that's what you do to prevent to get your fever to go away. V'ilo, now again, either you can't do this because you don't live near the Dead Sea or something like that, or it doesn't work. Leitava parshat drachim. Here comes the really strange one. This is like the placenta of the cat trick, though it's a little less disgusting. Stand by a crossroads. V'chichaze shum shemana gamla. You see a giant ant. I don't know how big it has to be. Didari midi, that's carrying something. Lishkale v'lishye begufta dinachasha. Put it in a tube of nechoshet. The listemaya ba'avra, seal it with lead. The lichat me b'shitin gushpanka, seal it with 60 seals. Okay, we're getting extreme here. The levarzule, you shake it. The lidare, you carry it. The lemale, you say to it, you speak to it, right? Like speaking to your plants. Ti'unach alai v'ti'una alach. You take mine and I'll take yours. Okay, I'll take what's on you. You take what's on me. Okay. And then the fever goes on the ant, and you're good. Here he comes with a great question. But how do you know this ant? Maybe someone else already did this to the ant. Now, if someone did this to the ant and you take what the ant has on it, the ant already has the fever on it. So you're going to get the fever back. So don't be nice like, oh, you take mine, I'll take yours. No. My burden and your burden, it's all on you, okay? And just be straight about it. Don't try to be a nice guy. You're only going to get messed up because it might actually go back on you. Obviously, the chances that they pick the exact same ant are, right, very unlikely. But in any case, he said to be on the safe side, right? We always have to be on the safe side with these incantations because if you remember before they said the chilufa is sakanta, right? You have to, maybe part of the reason why they're saying all this is be very careful how you do these things. You have to get it exactly right. If you don't get it exactly right, they don't work. And in fact, sometimes they could backfire on you, almost boomerang, right? They'll come right back on you. Okay, if this doesn't work, Elo, we're up to the last one. Lishkal kuza chadita, the last one at least for today. We're going to have more tomorrow. Take a brand new earthenware jug. The leza lanara, go down to the river. The lemale, nahara, nahara, speak to the river. Again, you're saying these incantations, speaking to things, here it's even water, not even a live being. Usvan koza demaya laorcha de iklali. Remember, he has a fever. If you remember what we're up to, he's trying to get rid of his fever. So he says, let me borrow a jug full of water for a guest that I have that's come to visit me, meaning, right, my fever's only a guest, he's going to leave soon. Spin it 7 times around your head, and then spill it back into the river. The lemale, and then speak to the river again and say, Nara, Nara, Shkol, Maya, Diyabitle, take back your water you gave me, which basically means take the fever away from me. To Orcha de Ikale b'yoma ata u'b'yoma azal, because my guest that came, he came for a day and now he left. And this is the way you get rid of your fever. And we're done with that for today. Okay, we're going to continue with a few more of these things tomorrow. Again, very strange, hard to understand in our world, but you can imagine in those days people really believed, and it could work. So we'll leave it with that. Food for thought for today.